Good afternoon and welcome to the Hoosier Huddle podcast, our new home on StreamYard and our first as Rivals publishers. I'm Sammy Jacobs. Along with me is T.J. Inman, and we're here to talk Indiana football and the spring football game, which is on Thursday, April 17th at 8 p.m. You can see it scrolling there on the bottom of the screen. And then for those of you on audio only, Thursday, the 17th at 8 p.m. It is not on TV, which is very disappointing. But I don't think has control over it. It seems like a nationwide de-emphasis on spring games around. Alabama's spring game wasn't on TV. Clemson's wasn't on TV. A lot of the bigger programs haven't been on TV as well. So it could be a portal thing. It could be that they'd rather show the spring volleyball matches on BTN. But we're here. We'll have all the coverage on HoosierHuddle.com. We'll have a game thread and all that stuff. So welcome in, TJ. How are you doing?
Doing very well. Excited to be talking about football. Um, I think it's going to be interesting to see exactly what they've done to get better. Um, Kirk Cignetti was not happy at his last media availability, but that is something that you see a lot of really good coaches do, is use that kind of a week left in spring football, use the media and the public as kind of a way to motivate your guys to really make sure they take advantage of those last few practices. And the spring game, of course, is going to cap off that period of work and head into the official off season with conditioning and training work. So I think that there's a lot to watch for. Uh, Injury wise, I think you have to be fairly pleased as far as we know what's been made public. Tyler Morris out for the season. Obviously, that's a disappointing one. Slot receiver from Michigan. Beyond that, it does seem like fairly healthy.
Yeah, the Tyler Morris injury is the big one that we know about, and then Khalil Benson has not practiced this spring. That was known, and as well as another offensive lineman in Drew Evans. He's coming
Yeah.
off of an Achilles injury that required surgery, and so the thought process going there was that he would not practice during the spring. But you're right. Kirk Cignetti went after his team after practice 10. It was clear. It was almost a 2-minute rant on last week on Tuesday, on Tuesday about it last Tuesday, and it was totally planned. We'll see. And we had Ben down at practice. He said the energy was better, the sense of urgency was a little bit better, and stuff like that. But yeah, spring practice wraps up on Thursday. Kirk Cignetti has never used all the spring practice sessions. That's why they moved it up to Thursday. Why put something off for 3 days that you can't get done sooner? That's just the MO of Kirk Cignetti's practice philosophy and things like that. They're very efficient. The spring game will be, described as the same as last year, which they played 2 quarters of football, offense against defense, live tackling. It'll be the first time all spring that they've tackled, which they did last year. It didn't really seem to affect anything in a negative fashion. Going forward, Indiana finished top in the country in rush defense. And they were a pretty darn good tackling team last year. So offense against defense, 2 quarters. Weather looks great in Bloomington for Thursday. It could change. We are recording this on Tuesday afternoon, and anybody who lives in Indiana knows that could change. But there are a few things we're looking for, and hopefully we can bring those to you since it's not on TV, and hopefully people who can get to the game. But let's talk about the offensive side of the ball first, TJ. A lot of new faces on offense, especially in the offensive backfield, both at quarterback and running back. You bring in, Fernando Mendoza is the headliner there from Cal, threw for over 3,000 yards, has looked really good this spring. His younger brother is working his way up the depth chart, has fixed, his throwing mechanics there as well. He looks like a strong arm, and then you bring in Grant Wilson from ODU, kind of as that veteran backup, who's been in played in games, been in big games, and can God forbid Fernando Mendoza gets hurt, can probably command the offense pretty well. And then let's talk about that quarterback room for a second. I mean, what do you see? What do you want to see from Fernando Mendoza on Thursday?
That we're not going to see a whole lot of the playbook. We know that. That's expected. What we can see, we think, is going to be, I would assume, probably some 2-minute drill situation type things. And I would assume that you will be able to see IU attempt to get Fernando Mendoza into a bit of a rhythm in a live game situation. Um, I would like to see one accuracy. I know that everybody, is always interested in the deep ball, but I think it's going to be very important for Fernando Mendoza to be able to consistently stretch the field both ways. Um, I think based on what we saw last year from Curtis Rourke, there was a tendency with his injury to more heavily focus on Elijah Surratt than I think was maybe initially the plan. Um, I would like to see the ball spread out a little bit more. Um, and I'm mainly thinking of Omar Cooper as the beneficiary of that. Um, I think that Cooper showed a level of explosiveness, averaged over 21 yards a catch last season, but had less than 30 receptions. And I think he's capable of putting together a season where he has over 50 receptions. I think he's a special talent that needs to be utilized a little bit more. That's not a complaint towards the offense, which was fantastic. But I do think that there was just a comfort level for Curtis Rourke with Elijah Surratt, which makes sense. Waffle House is always open. We know this. Um, but I'm looking for consistency with accuracy from Fernando Mendoza and comfortability in the pocket. He's not going to be touched. It would be crazy to have the defense tackling your quarterback during the spring game, but still, there is going to be some pressure on him from the defense. They'll be trying to get that two-hand touch sack. Um, so just the level of comfortability in the pocket within the offense and accuracy on a consistent basis. Um, and then obviously you wouldn't mind seeing him take a couple deep shots and see what that looks like. We've seen some highlights from practice that looks pretty good.
Yeah, that's what you want to see from Mendoza is can he make all the throws? Now they're not gonna run every route on the route tree or things like that. Um, but what else are you looking for on offense? They're
Yeah,
not going to run reverses or anything like that, but you have a lot of new pieces on the offensive line, running back, and some receivers. What are you looking for?
yeah. The second thing is going to be the growth from Alberto Mendoza. You mentioned it. It would be good to see that in a game situation. Every practice report that we've had indicates he's gotten a lot better. And that matches exactly what the Indiana coaching staff thought that they would be getting when they recruited him. Lightly recruited kid, his offer list was not great. They had a lot of belief in his skill set and his ability to continue to grow because they felt like he was a really, really smart football player. And that when the physical caught up to the mental for him, that he could be a Big Ten quality starter. That was a belief that they had. It's why they brought him to Indiana. So it'd be interesting to see another year of growth for Alberto. The rest of the offense, I want to see that wide receiver position. Who is able to step up outside of Cooper and Surratt? We can write those two down in pen, right? They're great. Beyond that, Miles Price is gone. Keyshawn Williams is gone. Tyler Morris is out for the season. Who else can step up at receiver? They need another one or two on the outside that they can feel comfortable rotating in. Charlie Becker, Mekhi Jackson, EJ Williams. And they need at least one, probably two guys that they feel comfortable putting inside on the slot. LeBron Bond flashed in a scrimmage video that we saw, and practice reports have indicated that he is what we thought he was, very quick, very explosive player. Is he ready to play as a freshman? Kurt Signetti is not one to put freshmen out there, but that might be a position where they have to do it. So wide receiver position, and then at tight end, what does that rotation look like? Riley Nowakowski, transfer from Wisconsin. Holden Stays, transfer from Tennessee. Both of them accomplished blockers. Are they going to be involved in the passing game? Sam West, not known as an accomplished blocker yet, more of a receiving threat. How is he going to be utilized? So kind of what does that or that tight end rotation look like? I don't expect to be able to tell much from the running backs or the offensive line, just as a nature of the spring game. I think it could be interesting to see the running backs used as receivers, just as pass catchers out of the backfield, because I do think that's going to be a bigger part of the offense this season. It's something that Roman Hemby and Lee Beebe are both very capable of doing. So I do think you're going to see that used a little bit more, and maybe we get a taste of that on Thursday night.
Yeah, basically on offense, I kind of go off of what we learned last year. And, if you watch the spring game last year, you knew things were going better. Just the whole operation of it was better. You're not going to tell, is the offensive line going to be, road graders or things like that. But you could tell that they'll probably pull some guys that they know the offense, that the communication with a new center with Pat Coogan is going well. You could get the sense of whether or not the operation of snapping the football is good or not. And that's what, the difference between the Tom Allen last few years and Signetti's first spring game was okay. It looks like they have all their ducks in a row. And I think that's probably what you're looking at offense outside of the rotations of players. And we'll see who plays too. That's the transfer portal does open tomorrow. We'll see who actually dresses and plays in the spring game and things like that. I'm not saying that there'll be a whole bunch of guys entering the portal and not playing, but last year you did have like Jalen Walker didn't play. A lot of guys recovering from injuries that they didn't want to expose to those live hits, not play. So we'll see if there's some guys who are banged up or bruised up that, maybe only get a series or two. And then you bring in maybe some of those guys that develop depth. Switching over to defense, I think defense is a lot more known than the offense. You have 3 All-Americans coming back with Kamara on the defensive line, Aiden Fisher at linebacker, D'Angelo Pons at corner. The question for me at defense, who's starting or who's got that lead at the other opposite corner of D'Angelo Pons? How does safety look? Safety and rover outside of Amari Farrell look, who's playing there, who's playing where, and then linebacker outside of Aiden Fisher as well. Does Elijah Hardy step into that number 2 linebacker role? Did they use Isaiah Jones there? Did they use 3 linebackers? Now, IU's not going to go throw out exotic blitzes and exotic coverages and all that stuff, but it'll be interesting to see the depth chart or at least what units come out for on defense. I think this defense is very talented. You do lose CJ West, which is a big loss, not just physically, but I think talent-wise is a big loss, and you got to plug a hole there. But you do have a couple transfers in Jose Wheeler and Dominic Radcliffe in there. Tyreek Tucker's had a good spring. Mario Landino should be in a bigger role. those are the things you want to see on defense. And then, of course, not tackling all spring. Are they going to just whiff on tackles and miss some tackles? Yeah, but it, make the clean play and things like that. Don't buzz coverage. You're not going to see anybody, blow up on a big hit or stuff like that. You want to see how these pieces fit together, how they communicate the defense, and all of those things. So, give me one thing you're looking for on defense, TJ.
You mentioned it, the talent and depth level of the secondary. How is that shaking out? Uh, there are guys that are going to be like third string at cornerback that in the not so distant future would have been starting uh, easily. It's a very, very deep corner position. And I know that Indiana feels good about it, but how is it going to shake out? We know that D'Angelo Pons is going to be one of your starters. What happens on the other side of that cornerback position, and which players are able to crack the rotation? Because obviously, you're not just going to play two corners. A lot of IU's base sets will end up having three corners on the field, along with two or three safeties. That's the nature of defenses now in college football with the spread offenses you're having to go against. A lot of four wide receiver sets that require you to have multiple cornerbacks on the field. That's why Indiana went out and got these guys. I would not be surprised at all if there's a couple of one or two talented corners that hit the transfer portal in the spring because they're buried on the depth chart. So what does that depth chart look like at cornerback? Who's starting opposite D'Angelo Pons? Who's the twos? We're not going to know that for sure based off of how they line up because they are going to break the teams up. But still, I think it's going to be interesting to see that. You're right. Who's at safety at besides Amari Farrell? What are they doing at the rover position? We're not 100% sure on that. So we get a glimpse of that. I do think that the position battle that we maybe thought was going to be the one of the more intense ones on defense is who's starting right beside Aiden Fisher. It certainly sounds like Elijah Hardy has done his part to grab that role.
Yeah, I think it'll be a matchup wise thing. If they're playing, what IU plays Wisconsin this year, if they come out with whatever 4 tight ends, a fullback, or 2 fullbacks, and a back from the 1940s, then yeah, you're going to play 3 linebackers. But if you're playing a spread team, UCLA, Oregon, maybe you get a little bit more athletic and go with 2 linebackers and Elijah Hardy's that third linebacker. But yes, I think if you had to start with 2 linebackers, I think Elijah Hardy would be the number 2 linebacker next to Fisher. But it's going to be
and if
very.
that's the case, how much progress has he made? The physical talent was evident right away when he got on the field. It was clear, oh, that guy, he makes plays. He stood out right away. So is that consistency with further reps and the reliance on him to be a consistent part of the rotation or a starter? Is that consistency going to be there? We'll get a glimpse of him. And we'll also be able to see Quentin Clark, who was a player that stood out at the end of the season in bowl practicing, and prep for the playoff. He was a guy that got mentioned as having a couple really good weeks of practice at the end of the season. He was hurt, so we didn't really see him at all last season. And we're going to get a chance to see Quentin Clark in the spring game. That's going to be interesting. He was a recruit that I was really high on just because of his athletic ability side to side. I thought he moved incredibly well from sideline to sideline, as a guy that could pursue the ball. And that's something next to Aiden Fisher that would be a good complementary piece. He's not the athlete Jalen Walker is. You're not going to replace Jalen Walker with another Jalen Walker. That's that's not going to happen immediately, but he's a really good athlete. So I think watching Quentin Clark is going to be interesting. And one player that I am interested on the defensive line, which I feel like is fairly set, given the veteran presences that are on that unit and returning, and the ones that they brought in from the portal that are consistent, proven players, is Daniel Ndukwe. You mentioned him in one of your practice reports that he's gotten bigger. We know about his athleticism and the length that he provides as a potential edge rusher. IU needs a consistent pass rusher to step up. Maybe a Ndukwe is a guy that can do that. So interested to get a glimpse of him as well.
Yeah, and Dukeway is definitely gotten bigger. His arms are he's super long. That was the first thing that you noticed when you saw him at practice. Um, but yeah, it's the defense. We'll see. I mean, they're not gonna. It's not gonna be a defensive bloodbath like you could see in the Big Ten, like the IU Michigan game. But you'll be able to see how they're functioning, how pieces fit together, and maybe even a little experimenting, like you said, with a lot of these younger guys. PJ Nelson's another linebacker that they like. There with Quentin Clark, and so we'll see. It's you really want to see the offense and defense kind of trade blows. You don't want to see one side of the ball dominating, the other throughout the whole game. If the offense is putting up a million yards and the defense struggles, that's bad news. You kind of want to see them adjust and things like that. Let's quickly talk about special teams, and then we'll get into IU just released all the details for the spring game, which includes a whole bunch of special teams. Um, didn't see James Evans punt last spring game. We'll see if you get to see Mitch McCarthy punt, but it'll be good to see what his type of leg is. We don't get to see specialists in practice. They go to another field and do their thing. Nico Radicic is back. Maybe they run him out for a long field goal or something like that. They're not going to do returns. They're not going to put guys in harm's way and things like that. But just to see the mechanics, especially, will be interesting and things like that. But IU just put out spring game details. We'll get to those in a second. TJ, IU will have a successful spring game if
Nobody gets hurt. That is number one. Number two, it looks like a coherent, competent operation again. Um, I think that it's one of those things where you know it when you see it. Um, if there are a lot of procedural mistakes, if there are a lot of fundamental issues like blown assignments on defense where guys just end up wide open um, because of blown coverages in the secondary, or uh, fumbling, um, just dropping passes. Just, I think those fundamental issues that are unforced by the opposition, if those are cropping up consistently, then I think you'd consider it not cause for concern because we trust this coaching staff, but I think you would look at it as kind of a yellow light, right? That man, maybe the focus isn't there right now. But keep everybody healthy and just continue to show that competency of good fundamental football on both sides of the ball, and you'd consider it successful.
Yeah, I think a red flag was raised when Kirk Signetti called his focus, a couple days ago. But that's what you want to see. Is the focus there? Is the complacency? Is there complacency? Well, it's the spring game, but you want people to put forth the effort. Now you're not going to see Aiden Fisher go knock the helmet off of Roman Hemby. That's not the effort you want to see. You want to see them hustling communicating, maybe go ball, jump on a fumble, make all the catches that you need to make. Just have that focus. That's the effort you want to see. It's just we're focused. We're going to play a half of football, and then we're going to get out of there. And I think that's, again, as always, burnt out injury in the spring game is top priority because everybody's going to come out of spring saying, "Oh yeah, we're going to be awesome next year." And look, you can't lose a spring game unless there's a major injury. So getting out healthy is again is the top priority. So that to me is a successful spring game. Do you give the fans enough of a taste to kind of tease them into the season and give them something to feel good about, and then get everybody out healthy and get into that off season? Go recruit, go get some portal guys and things like that. That's the final thing I'll be watching for is what might IU be going for after in the portal. But we'll talk about that on another day as well. So let's get to some of these things that IU's doing for the spring game, TJ. So 8 p.m. kickoff. Admission and parking are free. Gates to the stadium are opening at 7 p.m. Fans could utilize East Gates 2 and 4 for entry into the stadium. All seating is going to be on the east side. They will have the clear bag policy in place. Parking lots will be open starting at 5 p.m. Their gates 2, 4, and 12 when arriving. RV parking will be available at gate 11. There's a map. We'll put it out as well. We're about to publish that. There'll be giveaways. There'll be rally towels available at every gate. There'll be pregame activities, schedule posters, schedule cards, and magnets available. Photo opportunities with Bubba, The Rock, and the big inflatable BIG will be there as well. The Marching 100 will have a perform with the cheerleaders at 7:15. Season tickets will be on for sale. For concessions, the Indiana Sausage House and Victory Flag Barbecue, as well as the East Concourse Market Grab and Go will be open 7. IU merchandise and apparel will be available at the East Gate 3 store booth. And then the scoring system. Touchdowns were at 6 points, extra point 1, field goal 3. Defense forces a turnover, 4 points. Defense forces a stop or a punt, 3 points. And then, of course, a safety is 2 points. If there's a safety in the spring game, go cash in your plus 25,000 ticket in Vegas, or probably not Vegas. Some that you have that has spring game prop bets like that. So, yeah, straightforward. Next year, it looks like they'll have plenty of stuff for fans to do. So if you can, I know Thursday's tougher than Saturday, but get out. Weather's going to be good. Get a first look at this team, and then come back to Hoosier Huddle and get our opinion and our breakdown on it as well. So thank you, TJ, for joining us. And, fans keep coming back to HoosierHuddle.com. Give us that free trial ends on next Monday. The code is Hoosier Huddle. It's 68 free trial over at Rivals. To follow us, we cover everything: basketball, football, women's hoops, baseball, all the Olympic sports. TJ's doing an awesome job over on the basketball board with all of that stuff. So give us a try. If you like it, subscribe. If you don't, that's okay too. So all right, enjoy the game. We'll be back after to break it down for you.